Many singers rise online, but only a few leave listeners genuinely stunned, and Lucy Thomas is now one of the rare names leading that conversation. In recent years, a growing number of young vocalists have gained attention through social platforms, but Lucy Thomas has emerged as a noteworthy exception. Her rise has prompted discussions among vocal coaches, industry professionals, and longtime fans of classical crossover music. What sets her apart is not simply the quality of her voice, but the consistency with which she delivers emotionally resonant performances that attract audiences across multiple age groups and genres. As analysts review viewer data from her most-watched videos, one trend stands out: unusually high completion rates, meaning people aren't just clicking on her content, they're staying until the very end. Interest around her work intensified as more viewers began describing her voice as unexpectedly moving or far beyond her age, creating a buzz typically reserved for seasoned performers. Reporters covering music trends have noted that she often triggers spikes of engagement whenever she releases a new rendition, especially of well-known songs. The question many now ask is how a singer this young commands such emotional range. Today's report looks closely at the progression of her career and the elements that built the foundation for her current momentum, a journey marked by early promise, rapid development, and a surprising level of artistic maturity. Audiences expected a talented teen. Instead, they witnessed a voice that sounded strikingly developed for someone barely in her mid-teens. Lucy Thomas' public introduction arrived in 2018, when she appeared on The Voice Kids UK at just 14 years old. What happened next surprised viewers and music commentators alike. Instead of the typical vocal style associated with young contestants, Lucy delivered a level of control and tonal purity more commonly seen in trained adult performers. Her audition quickly circulated online and drew commentary from vocal analysts, who noted a maturity and steadiness unusual for someone her age. While Lucy did not go on to win the competition, coverage of her performances revealed something more significant. Audiences weren't focused on the outcome of the show, they were focused on her potential. Entertainment reporters at the time highlighted how she seemed less like a child testing her abilities and more like a developing artist already aware of her strengths. Following the broadcast, industry watchers observed a noticeable spike in online searches for her name. Articles began describing her as a standout contestant, not because of dramatic television moments, but because her voice hinted at long-term promise. That moment became the catalyst for the next step in her career: interest from a record label willing to invest in a young artist who already displayed unusual discipline. And as later events proved, that confidence was well placed. Most talent show contestants fade after filming raps, yet Lucy Thomas moved directly into the recording booth. Soon after her appearance on national television, Lucy Thomas signed with Cavendish Records, marking a shift that many young performers do not experience so early. Reporters covering the transition noted that her immediate move into professional recording suggested two things: strong label confidence and a long-term vision for her artistic development. Within months, she released her debut album, Premiere, which introduced listeners to a polished vocal approach that leaned toward classical crossover and musical theater influences. Analysts who reviewed the album highlighted how unusual it was for such a young artist to pursue a genre often dominated by more mature performers. Yet Lucy managed to bridge the gap, appealing both to younger audiences who discovered her online and older listeners drawn to her controlled technique. The release of the album also coincided with the beginning of her steady work ethic: one album per year, each demonstrating refinement in tone, vibrato, and emotional delivery. Music journalists emphasized that her early releases weren't merely experimental efforts. They were structured, thematic, and consistent, showing the beginnings of a long-term professional identity. Each album expanded her range and audience reach, while also setting the stage for what would soon become one of the defining aspects of her career: a rapidly growing online presence powered by emotionally charged performances that felt larger than their digital format. One performance in particular sent shockwaves through viewers, a rendition that circulated far beyond her usual audience. While her albums built credibility, it was YouTube that amplified Lucy Thomas' voice to a global audience. Analysts reviewing her channel growth noticed an interesting pattern. Her views did not spike due to viral gimmicks or trends, but because viewers repeatedly shared her more emotional performances. Among them, her rendition of Hallelujah became a defining moment, pulling in millions of views and comments describing her tone as calming, uplifting, or deeply stirring. Digital media reporters observed that her channel benefited from a unique blend of high-quality audio, straightforward presentation, and an absence of theatrics. This allowed the focus to remain entirely on her vocals, something increasingly rare on platforms where visual spectacle often overshadows talent. Additionally, her releases displayed a consistency that algorithms typically reward: steady uploads, strong viewer retention, and audience loyalty. As her numbers continued climbing, analysts began referring to her as a digital age classical crossover artist, noting that her growing influence did not rely on major publicity events. Instead, it came from repeat listeners who returned simply because her voice made them feel something. That organic momentum would ultimately help her transition into a more traditional performance arena, the theater stage. Experts reviewing her recordings point to one common observation: her voice carries a clarity that captures attention within seconds. Unlike many emerging singers who rely primarily on stylistic choices, Lucy Thomas combines technical precision with sincere emotional expression. Vocal specialists evaluating her tone often highlight her clean resonance, steady breath control, and the absence of strain during sustained notes. From a technical standpoint, these features indicate disciplined training and meticulous practice. But there is a second component that reporters frequently mention: the emotional weight behind her delivery. Listeners regularly comment that her voice conveys depth without exaggeration, creating an effect that feels genuine and grounded. This balance between control and expression allows her to reinterpret familiar songs in ways that resonate with diverse audiences. Some analysts describe it as the unexpected emotional impact factor, the sense that her performances arrive with a quiet intensity that grows as the song progresses. Journalists also note that her vocal identity doesn't attempt to mimic mainstream pop trends. Instead, she leans into her strengths, adopting a style rooted in clarity and warmth. This distinguishes her from many young artists who chase rapidly shifting genres. As a result, Lucy Thomas has cultivated a musical presence that feels timeless rather than trendy, a factor that undoubtedly supports her continued rise. When she walked into the West End, analysts realized her career had officially entered a new phase. In 2024, Lucy Thomas made her West End debut in the musical Rosie, accompanied by a full 30-piece orchestra. Entertainment reporters quickly drew attention to the move, noting that transitioning from digital performances to theatrical productions requires a different level of endurance, projection, and stage awareness. For a young artist raised on online platforms, stepping into a live theater environment signals a major milestone. Coverage of her performance described her presence as confident and composed, with a vocal delivery that translated seamlessly from recorded settings to live acoustics. Critics highlighted her ability to maintain tonal precision in a high-pressure environment, a skill developed only through strong discipline. This step into professional theater not only expanded her artistic resume, but also validated her long-term potential in the performing arts world. Industry observers commented that this achievement placed her in a unique position, a digital-era vocalist gaining credibility in a traditional arena. It also generated speculation about whether she would pursue more theatrical roles or develop original material tailored to larger stages. Regardless of direction, the West End debut marked a significant evolution in her career, demonstrating that her talent extends far beyond a camera and microphone. Despite her achievements, a surprising pattern remains. Many people still haven't heard her name. Although Lucy Thomas has amassed millions of views, multiple albums, and a successful stage performance, she remains relatively lesser known outside the classical crossover and musical theater communities. Media analysts attribute this to the fact that her rise has been gradual, steady, and built on substance rather than publicity campaigns. In an era where rapid viral attention often defines success, Lucy's career unfolds more like a traditional artistic development story: consistent work, increasing skill, and slowly expanding recognition. Reporters examining her audience demographics note that listeners frequently discover her by accident, through recommendations, shared videos, or algorithmic suggestions. This creates a hidden gem phenomenon, the feeling that audiences have stumbled upon a major talent whom the mainstream hasn't fully embraced yet. This sense of discovery contributes to the loyalty and enthusiasm visible in her comment sections, where many viewers express surprise that someone so skilled remains outside the global spotlight. Industry writers suggest that this positioning may ultimately work in her favor. Artists who build a foundation through authentic audience connection often develop careers with more longevity than those who rely solely on rapid exposure. And as Lucy continues to refine her craft, more people are likely to notice, not through hype, but through the undeniable quality of her voice. If this is the impact she makes before reaching full artistic maturity, analysts ask, what happens next? Reviewing Lucy Thomas' journey reveals a rare combination of factors: early promise, disciplined growth, and a voice that consistently evokes strong emotional responses from listeners. From her beginnings on a televised talent show to her success on YouTube and eventual transition into theater, her career reflects an upward trajectory built on genuine skill rather than fleeting attention. Music reporters observing her path emphasize that she is still at an early stage in her development. With each album, each performance, and each public appearance, she continues to refine her technical abilities and emotional expression. This incremental improvement suggests that her most impactful work may still be ahead of her. Analysts note that few artists manage to maintain this level of consistency at such a young age, which makes her long-term potential particularly compelling. Whether she continues expanding into theater, releases more original material, or reaches broader audiences through new digital platforms, Lucy Thomas remains a name worth watching. Her steady rise, backed by a powerful and unmistakable voice, positions her as a performer whose career could evolve in unexpected and impressive ways. For now, one thing appears increasingly certain: the more people hear her, the more they understand why her voice leaves audiences genuinely speechless.